Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are in this amazing world. My name is Donovan Jolly, and welcome everybody once again for another video of DIY investing. I've got the shades on today because today's motto for the video is going to be blocking out all of the fear. I know that there's so much fear and uncertainty inside of the market today. It's actually insane to see how Bitcoin has reacted with all of the regulations and all of the recent bills that were passed. And it's just insane that we're seeing this sort of a reaction. Now, a lot of people kind of expected this. A lot of people didn't. And so today we're going to be diving into my favorite cryptocurrencies. These are my top long-term holds. And then we're also going to be tying it all together with Bitcoin on a shorter time frame as well as a bigger macro perspective, because right now, even though it seems very fearful, there's still a bigger term perspective and trend that's still unfolding that leads me to believe that this trend is still very strong and we need to continue to watch and prospect for the long term. My goal for this video is 1,000 likes, so make sure you guys smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos like the one provided for you here. I also have a Discord server that's totally free for you guys to join. You guys can join by clicking the invitation link in the description of this video, and there you can get access here. Through my Discord server, I also offer some more exclusive content, being my video course and my signals. The video course is 20 educational videos that teach you guys all of the strategies that I use to trade and invest in this cryptocurrency. If you're somebody that wants to learn how to actually do this for yourself, I highly recommend that you guys check that out, because it's all of the things and tools that I use every single day when it comes to doing my analysis and trading in this market. The signals are actually a way for you guys to copy my personal portfolio, all of the long-term holds that I'm taking, along with shorter-term swing trades that I might do. All of this is going to be on the Discord, so if you guys want access, just shoot me a message on here and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Alright guys, we got a lot of different charts to cover today, so let's jump right into this amazing update. To start off this, we're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin obviously has had a massive pullback, and it's shaken a lot of people out of the market. I know that right now can be one of the most scary things that you've ever experienced as far as investing goes, because it's definitely one of the biggest corrections we've ever seen. I mean, from the top of the cycle that we just recently saw, the cycle high, we're already down about 45% from high to low, and so that's a big shakeout that just took place. And so I know a lot of you guys can be feeling fearful right now. I know a lot of you guys can actually be experiencing some losses. Now, the way that my long-term strategy goes is I'm constantly averaging into dips. And at this point, I've averaged into this dip so much that we did crash back down. And on exchange, I had some buy orders that were set. Now, from what I updated you guys with in this original correction before we had ever even broken out, really the only places left that I was watching were 6,300, so about right there. I didn't get filled on any of those posted into the Discord. And then we had some posted here at 5,800. And then we had some posted here at 5,300. Or excuse me, at 5,500. So about right there, a little bit higher than that. And so we've got filled on 2 of those except for the third. But at this point, I really didn't even have that much cash. And so buying this dip won't be very furious. I wish I could have had more, but that's just the way that your trading plan goes sometimes. I mean, overall, guys, we're at this pretty significant low. And I'm sure a lot of you guys watching this are going to be extremely bearish with what's going on currently. And I can definitely see why there would be the big reaction towards the downside. But what I'm noticing in sentiment right now was the fact that a couple days ago, I saw people asking me what they should buy. And what happened today was, after this correction, I'm noticing that those same people that were asking me what to buy a few days ago are now too scared to actually buy anything at all. And so what that tells me is there's been this major flip in sentiment. And so that's always the reaction that you want to see. It's really what we're going to have to see play out is how we react from these support levels. In my opinion, I still very easily think that we can dip back down to as low as about $5,300 before seeing a reaction. But it's at that level that I don't really want to see us go any lower before we do see an immediate bounce. Now, even though we're correcting like this, it's not the end of the world. It's not like we've completely broken bullish market structure, because you got to remember, guys, that we have been correcting from the beginning. Now, the only thing that I thought was after we had broken outside of this descending resistance, I figured that at this point we were going to continue on uptrending, and I was proven wrong. And we actually ended up correcting a little bit further. Now, this is something that I've actually told you guys about with XRP. A lot of the times when I've ever talked to you guys about XRP, I've talked to you about how sometimes when we break from descending resistance, we can get a reaction that breaks out only to see us actually go back down, retest lower lows, and sometimes even lower descending resistances. And we can see that in my last video, I had this drawn up a lot higher. On a logarithmic scale, I was showing us that we had broken out, and I said that it was very likely that we had retested this and we'd see a reaction. But what happened with all of this fear surrounding the markets, we corrected a little bit further, and when we throw up our same trend line off of the log scale, we're going to see that we're back within that previous resistance. And so what I'm watching for right now is just the fact that we're going to have to watch for this buyback. If we come back down a little bit lower, that's still fine, but we're going to need to see how this weekly closes. Now, realistically, it would be the best case scenario if we could close on the weekly outside of this, and it would be acting more as support. But like I said, we're going to watch and see. From a bigger term perspective, I know a lot of people have been wondering kind of what my plan was with this triangle that I had drawn. And really, guys, we can look at it from one or two ways from which I drew it yesterday. And this is really the only two scenarios that I'm watching for here inside of Bitcoin. Now I'm going to draw this a little bit lower because obviously we were rejected at resistance right there. But looking at this, this looks like we are completing a same triangle correction as before. The only difference is this could be the A, B, C, and then we could have a reaction once again up towards this resistance, and then we could once again fall back down to this support before breaking out. That's a possibility that we're watching for, as well as the possibility of this. A, B, C, D, and E. And this could have been the spill onto the E wave before we actually start to break out right now. And so this is what I'm watching out for. This is actually what my buddy Dallin Anderson has always recommended to me, and he's actually been pointing this out to me for a while. Obviously, he keeps a couple different scenarios in play, but this is pretty much what he's been following for the length of this correction since about here at 14K. Now, watching this, and we're going to watch and see how this plays out because we do have the couple scenarios. Like I said, it can be this before we see a little bit of a bigger correction, or it can be the bottom of the E wave now before we actually do start those impulses. But either way, these are the scenarios we're watching. We still have trending support intact. Even if you draw this up a little bit higher, yeah, we have felled this long-term trend line that was right here. But you guys got to remember that I think everybody's watching this trend line. And if we go and pull up a simple market cycle graph, spelled that wrong. If we go and look at a simple market cycle graph, we're going to see that this is what you want to find inside of a trend. Now, this is the same thing that happened right here. We can see that we had this takeoff period. This is the main trend line. And then you go into this delusion phase. This is where everything gets hyped, the big bull run. And then you actually go and you sell through that trending support, make one lower low, and that's ultimate despair. That's when everybody's the most fearful. Now, even though I thought that we would end up bottoming off of that same trend line, we sold through. And the reason why it does not matter is because from the very beginning, and what I've always told you guys, what I've been extremely transparent about, is the fact that I've been all in on cryptocurrency from the beginning, basically. Since 2016, I've continued to just buy as much as I could, everything that I could do to invest in a crypto, and nothing has changed with that plan. I know that all of the global markets seem to be in turmoil. There's a lot of fear regarding all of the situations with this pandemic. Now, with all that being said, you guys got to remember that for me personally, this is always a much longer prospect. And what I'm thinking with this is that I'm going to continue to invest in a crypto because I believe in the technology behind this. I could be proven completely wrong and I could lose everything, but that's something that I've already decided and like personally came and reconciled within myself back when I first started investing, because that's rule number one that I tell everybody. Only invest what you're willing to lose. You should be willing to lose everything that you have in the markets, and I personally am. I don't have a whole lot to lose because I'm young. I feel like I have the world to gain, and so for me, I still don't have that emotional attachment to what's happening. Yes, it's a big shakeout. Yes, the markets are dropping, but we got to remember that this is a buying opportunity that we're just not going to see. I cannot stress to you guys enough how when we look at this, this is a massive sell-off that's just taken place. we didn't see any sort of a correction this big all the way up in that bull trend. Now, for me, this is just consolidation before we do break out and start a new bull trend. And so this is a lot of volatility, but this is a good buying opportunity. All of these dips, all of these pullbacks are an excellent time to buy. I'm tapped out of cash. I'm not lying about any of that. And so it's not like I have the most amount of money to throw at this. I'm not trying to lie with you guys, but that's just what I'm going to talk to you about and why I'm explaining that this is really what I'm watching for moving forward. Now, we have broken this trend line, but like I said, if we pull up the market cycle graph, that to me is what everybody was watching for. If you, I mean, go on crypto Twitter, you're going to see pretty much everybody that was sharing that same trend line, and we're pointing it out to at least their followers. If it wasn't their primary, it was at least one of their accounts that they were looking at. And so by taking a look at that, that was what everybody was watching. Now that that trend line's broken, I'm pretty sure everybody is shaken out of the market. I know a lot of people don't want to buy this. That's why I'm going to go buy with literally the last remaining bit of cash I have. It's all of the cash I have left. I'm going to go throw maybe a couple $100 in. It's really not going to be that much because I need to have some to survive. But I mean, with a dip like this, it's all you can really do in times like that. So this is what I'm watching for with Bitcoin. Now let's actually dive into some altcoin charts. This video is going to be a little bit longer, so I'm going to try and speed through this. So let's jump right into this analysis. So taking a look here, we have XRP. I wanted to start with XRP because this one's sold off significantly since my last update. Really, the whole market has so, but XRP has been one of my favorite altcoins. Now, really with XRP, this has been a scenario that I've been watching for, and pretty much ever since we sold support at 30 cents, this was what I was watching. And I said that until we could actually maintain a higher high above that 30-cent level, then we were going to be bearish. And really, you can draw it at 30 cents, and this is only at 28 cents how I draw it. 30 cents is about right there. That's technically the monthly support if you pull it up to a monthly time frame as far as candle bodies go. And so that's the level that I've been watching for a significant majority of time. And really with that scenario, I knew that we had to break back above this level if we were going to be bullish. And what happened was we actually rejected once again with this most recent sell-off. Now, this takes me to something that my friend Dallin pointed out to me today when we were just looking at charts. Now, this is something that's really, really cool. And I think that once you guys actually start to see this pattern play out, it's going to start to make things a lot less scary than it seems. Now, I know with XRP community, you guys have hands of steel, and you're willing to just hold on to that trend with everything that you have. And I honestly respect the community for that. And so I want you guys to, I'm going to fill your guys' lives with a little bit of hopium because I actually do really like where this is following. Now, make sure you guys go follow Dallin. He's really one of the best analysts that you're ever going to find. He's really the person that taught me how to do all of this. You can find him on TradingView. You can also find him on YouTube. I'll link his channel in the description of this video. But what we're going to take a look at next is we're actually going to be taking a look at Bitcoin on this shorter time frame. Now, I'm going to take it off of this chart, and I'm going to delete these drawing tools real quick. Now, basically what he pointed out was the fact that Bitcoin and XRP look almost identical as far as their market structure from cycle to cycle. Now, what he pointed out was the fact that Bitcoin had roughly the same sort of consolidation. Now, you can get the top of the cycle right here, and let's actually pull this closer over so that we can take a look at XRP. We're going to see roughly the same sort of market structure. So we're going to compare these two as far as cycles goes. Now, we get the top of the bull cycle, and we're going to label this one red because obviously this was where we topped out. And then we make our first lower high. And we can see that here. We get our bounce at support. And then we end up making our first lower high on the cycle. And then we fall down to this descending triangle. And we consolidated here for Bitcoin almost a year. Maybe it was a year. But with XRP, we did consolidate for almost exactly 1 year. And then you saw that we actually sold through support, made one more low, and that was really what took us into that accumulation phase before we made one big rally up. Now, guys, this is the exact same symmetry that we're seeing as far as a market cycle between XRP and Bitcoin. And really all XRP is doing is capitulating from that point. Now, I've already told you guys that I had lower support levels drawn here at 15 cents. It's about right there. Let's make these ones a little smaller. At 15 cents and then at 12 cents. And I said that those were the levels that I was watching for this drop. And so we actually did bounce and hit one of those. Now, for me, We can go a little bit further, or we can bottom roughly where we're at. I think that we'll still spill a little bit with all of this fear that's taking place right now. But I do believe that we're going to see a bounce nonetheless, and it's going to take place pretty soon, because really this was just us consolidating right below resistance. We kept getting rejected, and now this is real capitulation taking place. Now, just like the Bitcoin cycle, we're going to do this little accumulation that's going to take place inside of XRP, and I do believe that we'll see something like that. And then we'll pop back up, and it'll be something like that. Now, with XRP, we could see something quite volatile and parabolic, and it could go all the way up to these previous resistances up here. And so that's what I'm actually going to be watching for, because I do believe that this is what's going to take place. Once we actually capitulate, it's going to surprise a lot of people when we do rally. And I know that you guys have been expecting that, because the way XRP moves is it happens quick when it does. Obviously, it can take some time before it does move, but when it takes place, it's really going to. Now, I don't know how long this is going to take. We could have a shorter accumulation. It might not take that long at all before we're at these higher levels, but we're going to have to watch and see, and I'm going to have to look and rethink some of my time frames, because I do believe the cycles are still following a cyclical time frame basis, but we're going to have some sort of variance, because every cycle does. We can remember from the last cycle, we still consolidated down and had one more lower low before we actually did start that major bull run. And that could be the exact same thing that we're experiencing right now inside of XRP. Realistically, we still have this major support from 2017. There's no reason to be super shaken out. There's been a lot of value that's entering in this dip. Not only that, but it continues to follow this previous cycle. It's just variancing just a small bit. But we can see that the same algorithms that created the same cycle from previous years is creating the same one now. It just looks a little bit different. So don't get super shaken out. Remember that this is just part of this buying opportunities with cryptocurrency that they arise. You're going to see big sell-offs, and it's going to get really fearful, but you have to be the person that's willing to buy in those fearful times. Now, next up on the list is going to be Ethereum. Ethereum is my biggest altcoin holding and biggest cryptocurrency holding at that. Now, with Ethereum, what I wanted to point out to you guys is the fact that we have corrected pretty significantly. I don't feel like I need to point that out, but what I wanted to share with you guys was a pattern that I noticed between Ethereum and the original Bitcoin cycle from 2015. Now, I think that these show a lot of resemblances, and even though we're selling off so hard, I still do believe that we're going to find support somewhere inside of this area. Now, it is possible that we could fall and make one more low down to about $50. That would be my next target if we did fail support. But I'm watching for something as far as a low of I'm watching for something about the lows of $80, something that we saw at the first of the cycle at support. I want to talk about this because it looks a lot like Bitcoin from 2015, where we see roughly the same sort of consolidation here. Now, let's go back here and take a look. We see roughly the same sort of correlations that took place. Now, with Bitcoin, we corrected. We had about an 84% correction, and then we ended up finding the first low in that cycle. Now, to me, it looks a lot like Ethereum, where we find our first low, we make a rally back up, find our first resistance, make a first higher high. Technically, this was a higher high from the low down here. And then we make another attempt at resistance. We get rejected. And then we have this really, really strong sell-off that takes place. Now, this strong sell-off ends up breaking the short-term support of the higher high, and it goes all the way back down to the primary lows of capitulation. And now this is really that last shakeout that took place before we made our first breakout and started the new bull trend. And to me, it looks very similar to what we're seeing here inside of Ethereum. To me, we saw the capitulation lows. We made our first impulse. This is our first resistance here. We'll label this one red. We come down, make some short-term support. We did maintain a higher high right here, technically. And then what happened was we made another attempt at these highs. We got rejected. And keep in mind, it didn't go all the way up to the previous cycle high, but it came up high enough that you could still count it as far as symmetrical. Now, what's taking place is the final sell-off inside of that cycle. This is really that capitulation wick that took place inside of Bitcoin right before we came all the way back down to the primary lows of capitulation. And then we kind of did that wick where it came down. We immediately came back up, and then we just kind of rounded out and then went out into the breakout. Now, I don't know exactly how it's going to look when all of it's said and done, but what I can share with you guys is the fact that I do see a lot of similarities between the two, and we should consider that because not only have I pointed out the similarities, I've always showed you guys that I've thought that Bitcoin and Ethereum were correlated as far as market structure goes, and so it only makes sense that they're going to continue to follow each other as far as accumulation and bottom structure. Now, we could see a longer, more elongated cycle like we saw in Bitcoin in the last one, and we could see a much longer accumulation trend that actually plays out, something more of a 4-year cycle. We're going to have to watch and see how this trend plays out, but it's still too young to be too shaken out by what's taking place. Like I said, this is still just a good buying opportunity. Now, next up is going to be Chainlink. Chainlink is one that a lot of people have been really hyped about. I posted to take some short-term profits right here inside of my Discord server, and so I actually ended up selling a lot of my Chainlink because I ended up buying them about right here at this initial breakout of these lows, and then I held to the top of here, ended up taking profits because I foresaw the market kind of correcting. Didn't really expect it to drop this far, but I'm really glad that I actually took some of those profits. Now, with looking at Chainlink, really the only thing that I think has happened is the fact that we finished our 1, and this is our 3 wave, and we're coming back down as 4 wave support before at some point we do go into a final 5 wave impulse, and this would complete our first cycle up. Now, this is what I've been updating you guys with. I thought that this 3 wave could continue to get more and more impulsive, but we ended up topping out here at about $5, and that was really my first TP area. And so looking at this, guys, to me, I think that we're just correcting back down onto support, and if we come back down here and try and find where that could be. The 618 is about a little bit lower from here, about $2 exactly. And so that's where I would be watching for. I think we could consolidate all the way back down to these lows that we saw down in here in December. But really, I don't want to see us break support of that. If we broke support and started falling back down in here, then that would actually indicate a complete trend reversal, and this wouldn't be an actual continuation of the 5 wave. But really, this is the completion of a 3, and that's what I expect to kind of play out from here. Now, I'm not really too shaken out, but what I see, guys, is actually a really cool pattern between Chainlink and Ethereum. Chainlink and Ethereum look very similar as far as their first primary cycles, and I'll go back and show you kind of what I mean. They look a lot alike, and I'll drop it to a shorter time frame so it's a little bit easier to see. And this is what I mean. It's really the first cycle that they ever made, and they look very similar. To me, we get this first little accumulation. Can't get it to draw here. First accumulation, and then we make our cycle. Now, we get the same sort of formation that forms in the 3 before the 5 wave impulse, and then at the 5, we get this massive correction, and then we come all the way back down. Now, what's interesting to me is the fact that this comes all the way back down to roughly that 618 region. And that's pretty much where you want to see a really bullish market bottom. And so if we go and take a look at Chainlink, we're going to see that we have a lot of the same similarities. We go through this rounded accumulation, then we actually make our first cycle high, and right here looks a lot alike compared to what we saw right here in sort of in Ethereum before we made our final 5 wave impulse. And then this is really where we get that cycle high, make our big bearish engulfing candle, and start the bearish retrace back down. And to me, it looks very similar to what we saw here. The only real difference is we didn't have quite the extended 5 wave that took place. But now we're just kind of correcting, but we're seeing that same bearish engulfing candle. And so to me, I think we'll get a short-term correction in this region here, and then we'll start another big impulse back up. I don't know if it's going to be quite as big as Ethereum. I don't mean to compare it as far as that cycle. I'm just showing you guys kind of how it looks as far as symmetry goes. And so Ethereum came back down and retested that 618 region, which would be about $2 Chainlink. And so that's what I'm going to be watching moving forward with that. Now, last up on the list is going to be Tezos, and we're going to drop this one to a little bit of a bigger time frame to take a look at this, because my trading plan still stays the same, but there's something that is playing out that we got to kind of watch out for. Now, really, inside of Tezos, the way I've had my wave count was this: 1, 3, 5, and then, oops, A, B, C, and then that was our 1 wave impulse. And then we were working on our 3 wave, right? And that's what I've been updating you guys with thus far. And not much has changed since then. We're still following that same wave count. And really, this was just a 1. This was our 3. And we've retraced very, very far in this 4 wave. And I was not expecting that. I figured in a 4 wave retrace, we would have found support higher, because you generally do. But this is still the primary wave structure in which I'm watching. It is possible that this could have been the top, and we could see a deeper correction back down. but based off of my primary wave count, as long as we're making a higher high above these candle bodies right here on the weekly time frame with Tezos, then this is still okay for more upside. Now, that's what I'm going to continue to watch for, but realistically, we still have one more 5-wave impulse coming. And so I've updated inside of my Discord of where I was going to accumulate this dip, and we have sold off pretty deep into this. But really, in times like this, all you can do is just find whatever cash you can muster and then buy the dip. If you're somebody that's scared, now's not the time in which you want to sell, because you're at least going to wait to see a relief rally ensue at some point. And so with Tezos, I'm going to continue to watch out for this scenario to play out. This is the one that I've watched out for a while, and this has been my primary account. And so really, guys, this is the analysis I had for you. I wanted to go through and talk about as many things as I possibly could because there was just so much to talk about. I know how scary this recent dip was. I know a lot of people are going to be mad. I've already woken up to hate comments inside of my channel. A lot of people have been just messaging me stuff and just are really mad about the way that the market's tanked. And it's in times like this that you see the most negativity, that the market bounces the highest. And so I'm here to just more or less show you guys my personal trading plan. This is my trading plan with my long-term investments because these are my long terms that I plan to hold for a long time. I've told you guys that I really have no intentions of taking profits before the halving. And with this big shakeout ensuing, I definitely understand why everybody would be wanting to take their profits. But for me, I've always committed to the long-term hold and the prospect of that. And so I'm going to continue to not change my trading plan because it's when you change your trading plan that you make the most mistakes and lose out on the most financial opportunity. Now, for me, this is a good buying opportunity. I'm tapped out of cash. Gosh darn it, wish I had more. You live and you learn. It's the whatever you can guys do. But I've made some profit since just buying the dip. Because we're dipping a little further than I expected is not the end of the world for me because I've continued to average into these dips as we've built this trend from the very beginning. And so really, guys, I'm here to show you guys that my trend mindset has still stayed the same. We are correcting a little bit further than originally planned, but it's just part of the process that you're going to be expecting the unexpected because times like this happen often in crypto. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. And with all that being said, I will catch you in the next update. As always, peace out.